Hi, everybody. Good evening and welcome to our happy holiday hosting event. We're looking to have a fun time together, thinking about some of the practical, historical, psychological, and cultural things that we can be doing or recognizing around Christmas to make our hosting of Ukrainian refugees as wonderful as it possibly can be under the circumstances. I am Krish Kandaya. I'm the founding director of the Sanctuary Foundation. My family are currently hosting, and I can see from the chat that many of you are hosting too, and welcome to you. We had such a lovely response to this that we've decided to stream onto YouTube. I'm sorry this evening we don't have simultaneous translation, and this, I guess, is because our event is primarily aimed at hosts. But if you are from Ukraine, Laskava Prosimo, welcome. And I'm sorry we can't do this in two languages this evening. This evening, we're going to be spending some time thinking about how Ukrainians normally celebrate Christmas, just so that we're aware of some of the differences. And we'll be speaking with a Ukrainian refugee friend of ours called Tanya, and she'll be helping to sensitize us to some of the things that Ukrainians are feeling. We're going to have some trauma experts join us to figure out what we can do to make Christmas less triggering and more fun. And so we'll be thinking about that, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions. I want to give you a little bit of an update on some of the things that are happening with the Homes for Ukraine program and some of the exciting opportunities there are to kind of make a difference to Ukrainian refugees that are here. Now, you may have heard that the number of Ukrainians in the country that have arrived through either the family reunification scheme or the Homes for Ukraine scheme is now over 140,000. And around 104,000 Ukrainians are living with people like you and me. And sometimes we don't kind of celebrate this enough. Thanks to the hospitality of ordinary folk up and down the country, we're now hosting more refugees in people's homes than I think we've ever done as a nation. I'm a huge fan of what Britain did in 1939 with the Kindertransport. And I don't know if you've ever seen, there was an amazing television program hosted by Esther Rantzen called That's Life. And they had this special event where there was an interview between one now grown up woman who had been rescued by a guy called Nicholas Winton. And they brought Nicholas Winton into the studio, and Esther Rantzen was interviewing him and said, "Did you know that there's a lady here that was rescued by you?" And that was beautiful. And everyone was very moved. And then she said, "Actually, just in the audience, if you were rescued by Nicholas Winton, could you stand up?" And there was this elderly gentleman, and suddenly he was surrounded by a whole crowd of people who owed their lives to him. I just can't watch it without crying. It was celebrated in the BBC as one of their finest moments of broadcasting history because the BBC had its centenary this year. So that is a game-changing, history-making event that we rightly celebrate. And there's even a bronze statue outside Liverpool Street Station. Well, what's happened, thanks to people like you, is on a level with that, 104,000 Ukrainians. And unlike in those times where only the children can come, you've been able to host mums and sometimes grandmothers and sometimes husbands and fathers. It's been incredible. So well done if you're hosting. And I hope they build a bronze statue to you for all that you've been doing. But this is history, and we're really, excited to be part of it. At at Sanctuary Foundation, we love this. We love the fact that the UK has risen to the challenge. It hasn't been without problems, but on the grand scale of things, something amazing has happened. But you've probably come across that one of the challenges is what happens next. We love hosting. Some of us are able to continue hosting indefinitely. Others of us, it's going to be more challenging. And the government asked us initially if we could host for 6 months. Many of us have gone beyond that now. But what's going to happen next? Many of our friends that are experts in trauma recovery tell us the best thing that can happen is if a Ukrainian family or individual gets their own home, has a front door that they can lock. But if you've tried to get housing for Ukrainians or help them to get housing, it's really problematic. There just isn't enough housing available at an affordable rate. So we at Sanctuary, we've got a special event happening on Tuesday, we've so far had about 4,500 hosts who have signed an open letter to our government, again, celebrating the wonderful things that have happened with hosting, but saying, look, we really need a housing solution and we'd love to partner with the government to find a solution to that. So a few of us are going to go to Downing Street, we're going to knock on the door, we're going to deliver this letter to the government with those 4,500 signatures representing about 10,000 people who have been hosted. And we're doing it with a smile on our faces and a way of saying, look, we're with you, we want to help, but we really need the government to meet us. If that's been your experience too, maybe you've tried to help someone find some accommodation, let us know in the chat how that's been and whether you found some good solutions. Lots of people are really struggling with that. And so we want the government to know that we're trying to help. The other thing that's happening next week is our book is going to be printed. We've made a beautiful book. Actually, I think Callum might have a picture of it for you to see. A beautiful book for Ukrainian children. And this book has been made so that there's a lovely warm welcome in Ukrainian and English for Ukrainian kids. And we're trying to get it out just in time for Christmas. We can give these books free to schools. We can afford to pay the postage if schools order 20. So it's a free book, free postage if schools order over 20. If your local school would like some, all you need to do is send them to this link. The link in is going to be in the chat here, so you can find out about it, or take a picture of this picture and use the QR code. We're not able to send it to individuals for free. We just don't have the money to be able to do it because we're printing 20,000 copies of this book. But the book is absolutely beautiful. It's full of warmth and welcome, and it's got incredible messages from people like Zoe Ball and Tom Odell and Bear Grylls, just wishing the kids all the best and explaining some of the things that they can get involved in here to help them kind of start their life in a positive way here. So that book is available for free in orders of 20, but we're going to send them to school. So please make use of that if we can help. And the final thing, just to let you know, is that we've managed to secure 1,500 welcome boxes. I don't know if you've experienced this as well, but for me, some of the kind of hidden heroes, apart from you hosts of the refugee resettlement, are the mums. They're often, really incredibly generous women who are missing their husbands and loved ones back in Ukraine, but for the sake of the safety of their children, so the kids don't have to experience the ongoing bombings or the lack of water or the lack of electricity, they're here in this country, and mums often are giving themselves away and investing in their children, and we wanted to tell them we're with you and we're for you and we're grateful for you, we see you, we appreciate you. So we've managed to secure about 1,500 gift boxes. We did a little email out earlier in the month, and we've now allocated all those boxes, but we've got items going in from bands like groups like ASOS and Tetley, and just heard La Occitan are going to put something in there, so we're going to be able to give those away. Most of them are going to go to Ukrainians, but we've got a few hundred that we're going to make available to Afghan mums, because in my estimation, every refugee matters, every single individual matters. We love supporting Ukraine, but we're also passionate about supporting people from Afghanistan too. If you happen to work for a corporate company that might want to help contribute putting things in the box, I'm in a conversation at the moment with John Lewis to see if we can get 1,500 Waitrose boxes of biscuits or mince pies into the box. Just reach out to us. But I wanted you to know that's happening. I'm hoping next year you'll be able to do it again and make it even bigger. So there you go. Those are some of the things that are coming up. Someone asked in the chat, is the book relevant to teenagers? I would say yes. It's probably, if they were going to read it to themselves, we're probably talking like 7 to 13, 14-year-olds. But I think it's just a keepsake. It's a lovely memento. So I don't think you really have to put an age limit on it. But we're hoping they'll enjoy it. And yes, Lizzie, this session is being recorded and it will be available later on. Okay, are you ready for a little quiz? I want to see your knowledge of Ukrainian Christmas culture. And I have just 8 questions. And the way that you can participate, if you'd like, is to use the chat function on YouTube, and we're going to have a little poll up, and you can tell us which you think is the right answer. There's going to be four different options, A, B, C, and D, and you just pick one that you think is true. There are no prizes, just glory and honor available to you. But we're going to use this as a way to kick off our discussion about Ukrainian Christmas. Okay, first question, just for starters. When do most Ukrainians celebrate Christmas? Here are your four options. Is it A, December the 19th, B, December the 25th, C, January the 7th, or D, January the 13th? Now we're saying most, and this is up until recently. When do most Ukrainians celebrate Christmas? And I'm hoping you can vote in the chat. Yeah, you can do that. Or we might have a little poll that you might be able to contribute in. Let's see if that works too. Anyway, oh yeah, lots of good answers there. Most of you saying C. Callum, what's the answer? C. Well done. And that the reason behind that is that most Ukrainians follow the Orthodox Julian calendar, which recognizes Christmas on January 7th. But now some follow the Gregorian calendar and celebrate on the 25th. In fact, there was a news article today in The Guardian that there's been permission given or sought from the Orthodox Church in Ukraine to celebrate on the 25th. That's particularly because they're trying to move away culturally from what's going on in Russia. The main Christmas meal is traditionally eaten on Christmas Eve, January the 6th, and December the 6th, December the 19th is St. Nicholas Day, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. Well done, you guys are doing well. Second question. Where do Ukrainian children look for a present on St. Nicholas Day, 19th of December? Is it A, under the tree, B, under the sink, C, under the pillow, or D, under the mistletoe? What do you think? Vote away. See what you reckon. Let's see, giving you a chance to vote now. Okay, and the answer is C, under the pillow. And here's why. Ukrainian children look forward to St. Nicholas, known as Svarty Mykolai, leaving them gifts like sweets or biscuits in the night. Usually they find them under the pillow, although children from Western Ukraine might actually look for them in their shoes. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm planning to have 3 Christmases this year. We're going to have a party on the 19th of December to celebrate Svarty Mykolai. Our little town community group is organizing that with a local church, and Svarty Nikolai is going to turn up. He's got a special suit, looks very different to Father Christmas, but there we go. We're going to celebrate on the 19th. We're also going to celebrate on the 25th, and we'll also celebrate on the 7th of January. I think Slade were right. I wish it could be Christmas every day, and if you're hosting Ukrainian refugees, well, it really could be at least 3 days, so that could be fun for us. Okay, next question. Are you ready for the next one? How many courses are there in a traditional Ukrainian Christmas dinner? Is it A, 3, B, 7, C, 9, or D, 12? If you are sat with a Ukrainian friend, good for you, and it gives you an excellent advantage. So well done if you have that assistance. Well done. Okay, you ready? Let's see what the answer is. The answer is 12. Now, here's a fun thing. Keep going. Some say this is for the 12 months of the year, others for the 12 apostles. Many people like the meal to be prepared without meat or dairy products as part of the Advent feast. You might have seen that in other cultures. A lot of fish is eaten on Christmas Eve. However, many other families include meat and dairy products in dishes such as borscht, cabbage rolls, dumpling, pierogi, and other Ukrainian delicacies. I hope you've had the joy that we've had of sampling some of this food. Wouldn't it be fantastic whenever you're going to celebrate Christmas to include some of these dishes so that all of our Ukrainian friends have a little taste of home? And it could be a fun thing to be doing as a family, couldn't it? That you're taught to make or experiment with these kinds of food. That could be fun. So let's enjoy this culinary feast. All right, next question. You ready? According to tradition, when can Ukrainians begin eating their Christmas dinner? Is it A, when the prayer is said, when people say grace at the beginning of the meal? When the first star is seen? B, when the candle is lit? C, or when the godparents have been visited? When do Ukrainians begin normally eating their Christmas dinner, at least according to tradition? A, B, C, or D? Let's see what you think. We've had a lot of fun actually in our family just comparing traditions. It's a wonderful kind of cultural exchange moment. And a lot of our dinner table conversation with our Ukrainian friends is exactly in this space. And it's fun finding out how different cultures work. I found out yesterday that for our friend at least, a traditional remedy, if you're not feeling very well, is to have hot beer, which sounded pretty terrible to me. I'm going to try it next time I'm ill. Have some hot beer. I explained what a hot toddy was with milk and whiskey in it, but hot beer, that could be fun. All right, and the right answer for when you can start eating dinner is when the first star is seen. I don't know. I'm going to ask Tanya in a minute what happens when it's cloudy. Although it's customary to visit godparents, light a candle, and say a prayer before Christmas dinner, the tradition that marks the meal can start is when the first star is seen in the night sky. So you can hear that the meal is taking place in the evening rather than us having it at lunchtime. I wonder what time you'd need to start to see the first star. How are you going to fit all those 12 courses in? Could be a big night. And here's a traditional Ukrainian Christmas decoration called a diduk. And I'm sure you could try and decorate your house like that if you fancied. All right, next question. What is the Ukrainian traditional greeting on Christmas Day? Let's have a little look. You got four choices: Happy Christmas, good luck, glory to Ukraine, Slava Ukraine, or D, Christ is born. Which is it? A, B, C, or D? This was funny when we were talking to Natasha, who lives with us. She said, there's something very special on for the first 2 weeks after Christmas. You're not allowed to say hello to anyone. I thought, oh, that's a bit rude. And they said, no, it's because you have to give this special Christmas greeting instead of hello. And do you know what the right answer is? What is the correct answer? Let's see, Callum. You say Christ is born. And we're going to have a practice right now. Are you ready? The traditional greeting is Christos Rojadetia. I'm going to ask Tanya if I pronounce that right. Christos Rojadetia. Wouldn't that be a fun way to greet someone whenever you're choosing to celebrate Christmas? The traditional response is Slavimo Yoho, which I think is fun, isn't it? Doesn't it sound a little bit like Father Christmas? Ho, ho, ho. Slavimo Yoho, glorify him. And Happy Christmas is Veselo Rizdva. So, it'd be nice to learn a few phrases to get ready for that day. All right, here's a good one. Which famous Christmas carol originates from Ukraine? Is it A, the Carol of the Bells, B, Silent Night, C, O Holy Night, or D, Good King Wenceslas? Which is it, friends? A, B, C, or D? You have a vote. Tell me what you think. You're getting quicker at your responses, so well done, everybody. A, B, C, or D? And the right answer is the Carol of the Bells. I can't sing it very well, but if you watched Home Alone, you'll know the tune, dee 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 dee, which sounds like the bells. I think there's only 4 notes in the whole thing, and that's quite an easy thing to play on the bells. Originally, it was called Shedrik, and this was written by a Ukrainian composer, Mykola Leonatovich, based on a New Year's folk song about a swallow. So it actually wasn't a Christmas song, but when I think there was a Ukrainian choir touring America, English lyrics were written by Peter Wilhosky, an American with Ukrainian heritage, and that's how we got our famous Christmas bells carol in 1936. Okay, we're coming in to the final couple, I think now. What do Ukrainian boys throw around the house at New Year traditionally? Is it A, salt, B, grain, C, water, or D, coins? A, B, C, or D? Let's see what you think. What do you think? What are Ukrainian boys? And it has to be boys. It's very bad luck if it's girls. That's not me. That's the tradition. What do they normally throw around the house? And the answer is grain. And apparently, men can go too. You'd go knock on a neighbour's house and you'd wish them Happy New Year. And you go around the house and you throw grain. New Year's Day in Ukraine is January the 13th. That's because of the Julian calendar. And it's known as Malanka. People dress up and parade through the streets, spreading sowing grain. to wish households luck in the year ahead, and it's considered bad luck to clean away the grain too soon. So there you go. I don't know why women can't do this, but boys go around and they throw the grain, and this could be a lot of fun. You can decide if you want to practice this in your house, but it might be a fun thing to go and do when you visit your Ukrainian neighbors. Okay, I'm going to try and put this quiz up on as a kind of digital thing. So I'll share it with you. Could be a fun thing to have that kind of cultural exchange. But we had a bit of a think about the British traditions that we have. And I just wonder which of the following traditions you've already explained to your guests. It's important for us as hosts to learn about Ukrainian culture, but some of the things we do are pretty weird. And so just talking them through helps someone feel at home. Look how many we've got. Do you remember Elf on the Shelf, Advent calendars, letters to Santa, hanging stockings, dressing the fireplace, Christmas Eve boxes, Boxing Day sales, fox hunting, crazy controversial, sprinkling reindeer food in front of a fire, going to church, nativity plays, caroling, Secret Santa, shoebox appeals, switching on the lights, Christmas cards, Christmas stamps, pantomime, kissing under the mistletoe, Advent candles, Doctor Who special, Queen's speech, Morris dancing. I tried to explain that the other day. I don't think I did very well. Late night shopping, Elf the movie, New Year's resolutions, Dry January, Christmas #1 single, Silver penny in a pudding, Naughty or Nice list, choosing a Christmas tree, Star topper, pulling crackers, paper crowns, Christmas jumper day, midnight mass, Christingle, wild swimming, snow day, stirring the Christmas cake, playing charades, wreath making, and grottos. There's a lot, isn't there? So that's interesting, isn't it? That we have some interesting traditions that our families do, some families don't. I guess even with that list that we just gave you, not every Ukrainian family does it the same way. But yeah, someone said it was very hard to explain Guy Fawkes Night. It doesn't make sense, but it's been fun for our children actually to learn about our culture through explaining it to someone else. So there you go. There was a little bit of historical, cultural fun. Let's spend a bit of time now with Tanya Orlova, who, if you've joined us before, is a regular on these things. She's brilliant at helping us navigate these things. Tanya, we just had a bit of fun there thinking about some of the traditions that many Ukrainians celebrate. What do you think? What for your family? Do you do most of those things or some of those things that we mentioned?
All right. So, first of all, I would like to say that it was really nice to hear all of this. It felt, so cozy, like I'm at home and
Good.
seeing it all. And I'm kind of, having it all in my memory before my eyes. So it's really very nice. At the same time, I have to say that, we started truly celebrating Christmas not a long time ago because of Soviet Union history and part in our history, it was forbidden and people were doing it secretly. And our main holiday was New Year Eve. And then, when it started happening here and there, like my grandmothers would do, and I would see it somewhere else, it was a little strange for me. And then I realized in the western part of Ukraine, they are doing it really seriously, with all these traditions and all these dishes and things. And then step by step, slowly, we were sort of, like this phoenix. It was reviving, and we were studying it better and bringing it to our houses. It was really nice, and mostly it was, as you said, the night from January 6th to January 7th. Both days were very important. Before that, people had to many people have chosen to fast really strictly. And there were serious rules how to do that. For 40 days, were not supposed to eat any meat. Some days they could eat some fish, but it was really very complicated. And then, as you said, we had 12 dishes, and it's very important. Every family did it, and my family and families of my friends. And the interesting thing that yeah, you start eating it at 12. Before that, many people are fasting the whole day. Like they just start eating at noon, at 12. What is it? Midnight, right? Yeah, and then the next day is also very important. So evening time is for the family, for the
Mm.
closest members. And then the next day you are going, you are visiting friends and other relatives. And it's like the whole day you are doing it, because during this day it's also was very important to forgive people, right?
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. And another interesting thing that I don't know if Ukrainians would love to keep it, but we not only have these dishes, we are not supposed to finish them all,
Oh,
right? No, we have to keep them for our ancestors, and we have
wow.
to keep them on the table of the night. So yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, this is one of our tradition. And then because especially as I told, on western part of Ukraine we had many Catholic churches and traditions, and people were, you know, celebrating uh, Catholic Christmas on December 25th. Our government decided, okay, why don't we have both? So
Mm.
we celebrate both Christmas officially.
Nice.
We have, it's like, yeah, yeah, it's our holiday, and we do both. And another interesting thing is that children are coming, as you said, from house to house and bringing this grain, singing songs, which we call kalyatki and shidrivki. And then, you know, people give them sweets, sometimes even money. Yeah. So yeah, it was very popular too in Ukraine. Um, what else? Also, interesting thing was that they were organizing this sort of puppet theaters, like a
Mm.
small in a box puppet theater with puppets. Well, everybody loved it. People were coming around it and watching it. Yeah, so it was really fascinating.
Brilliant.
For me, yeah, for me, it's a great thing. For years, our New Year, as I said, was the most important holiday. But slowly, slowly, now
Mm.
probably Christmas is number one. Then we have New Year, and then, as you said, and thank you so much for that. Uh, December 19 is a very important day for our
Mm.
children.
Mm.
It's St. Nicholas Day, and St. Nicholas is our answer to your Santa Claus. Yeah,
Well, thank you, Tanya, and I love this opportunity to learn about another culture. For me, my Christian faith is really important to me, and hearing how, you know, the Christian tradition works differently in Ukraine, I love it, and I love learning like that. A few questions have come up around, you know, okay, we have families here, many with children, and we want to include them into our Christmas and honor their Christmas.
yeah.
What do we do about gifts? Like, should we offer the gifts on the 19th? Like, do you go all out on gifts then, or do you save it for the 25th, or do you wait until January? Do you have an advice? Or I, I'm guessing we'd want to have a conversation with the parents of the children and kind of come to some conclusion together. But have you any advice for us?
Well, actually, you know, if you can ask the family, are they Orthodox or they're Catholic,
Hmm.
then probably you would have a better idea, because for Catholic it's more in December, and for Orthodox it's more in January.
Hmm.
And well, if it's possible, something very small you can give all of the days, just, you know, like a chocolate or
Yeah.
something really very, yeah, small. That would be great.
That's really good.
Yeah.
And thank you for the insight about the relative new way that Ukrainians are celebrating Christmas. I'd forgotten about communism almost banning
Mhm.
it. And
Yeah.
so I wonder
Yeah.
whether Christmas feels even more important now because of the
Yeah,
conflict in
exactly.
Russia. You know, that
Yeah.
this is a way of resisting the past and
Yes,
saying this
yes.
is us. Do you think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly. When Ukraine became, independent, we started regaining all of our traditions that we had for years. Yeah, it's very important for us.
And we're going to be talking with some of your friends actually in a minute. But just from a Ukrainian perspective, look, for many families, this is obviously it's a happy, lovely time, but it's also a time when we remember we're not together. You know that husbands and fathers and brothers are still
Mhm.
there, and the conditions seem to be getting worse. Do you have
Mhm.
any guidance for hosts about how we help families with this? What are you hearing from some of the Ukrainian families about how they're feeling about Christmas approaching?
Well, actually, we love, and for example, my son was helping to decorate the house. The house where we stay is decorated, and we are ready for Christmas in December. And it feels really nice. And we started doing it back in Ukraine too. I think important thing for us would be probably during this time when Christmas starts, like this particular evening time when you can start eating, maybe to send messages or have a conversation with those who we love,
Yeah.
with people that are close to us to share these moments.
Yes. Yes. Very good. Oh, okay. I'll just throw this one at you, and then we'll bring Wendy in. Sarah's asking, how do I manage Father Christmas? My children still believe, but if our Ukrainian guests do not have a full stocking on Christmas Day, will they ask questions? I mean, what do you think? If there are younger children, um, how do we help preserve this belief in Father Christmas that some of the kids will have and some won't? Any wisdom for us, Tanya?
Well, you mean it's about
I think
uh,
Sarah's wondering. So, some children in Britain
yeah.
believe very much in Father Christmas, and that's that. It there's been all
Okay.
sorts of controversies when people have gone into schools and said he's not real, and there's this sense of, oh, we've spoilt something innocent for children. What
Uh,
do you think most Ukrainian children believe that Saint Nicholas actually goes to their houses, or do they think it's more like a fairy tale?
well, it depends on how old they are, but they all prefer to believe it because they get nice presents, something sweet or what they wanted. So, they choose to believe.
Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
good. Brilliant. Well, stick around, Tanya. We're going to have a panel discussion at the end, but I wanted to bring in Wendy, who is in America. And Wendy, look, happy Thanksgiving Day. It's very kind of you to give us time on such an important family day in America. As I remember it, the Pilgrims were thanking God that they'd escaped from the English. So I don't know if I can wish you happy
That's a
Thanksgiving
little
Day.
different than than how we're taught, but fair enough.
Well, it's really kind of you. When did you share a little bit about your professional world so people can understand that these aren't just ideas off the top of your head? What do
Yeah.
you do?
So I'm a psychotherapist that specializes in trauma, PTSD, and anxiety. And so after Tanya got to do all the fun stuff, and Allie's going to get to do more fun stuff, I'm gonna do a little bit of the serious stuff. I think a little sandwich of that. So
Yeah,
we'll have more fun in a minute, um, but we're going to talk about what might be coming up. Um,
yeah,
uh, Especially
that's
for
right.
children, but pretty much anything we're saying about children, you can also think about possibly for the adults in the home as well.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for giving us your time today and sharing your expertise. I guess I'm a foster parent. Christmas can be quite a triggering event for children that have been through trauma, because it reminds them of who's not in their lives anymore, or who's missing, and I'm just wondering if you can guide us on some of the things that might be triggering for children. And we recognise all sorts of children have all sorts of things, but if we're aware of some of the things, that might help us to tread carefully.
Yeah. So the first thing I would say, and you and Tanya have done a beautiful job setting this up and modeling this for us today, is that you want to prevent a trigger. If you can do that, that's the best. And what you're talking about in terms of having discussions with your guests, what's Christmas like for you? What do you do in your custom? How do we want to do that together? Do we want to celebrate on different days? How do you feel about gift giving on this day or that day? Do you decorate? This is what we do. Anything that you can do to, that they know what you know, and that nothing is a surprise. There's going to be lots of people in the house. Are you comfortable with that? Would you rather not be here that day? Would you rather be somewhere? Anything that you can do to prepare them and allow them to make the choice of how much they want to participate in, and where they may not want to, and not feeling, as much as I can say it, don't feel bad if they say we're going to leave for the day. That might be the best thing that they can do to protect themselves, depending on their sensitivity to these kinds of things and where they're emotionally at. Yeah. And so that's the first thing I would say.
Just on that, Wendy, it's a really, really interesting point. And I hadn't thought about, I love the idea that this is all about a conversation. We're not imposing, we're not forcing, we're trying to help work with mum or dad if they're around, so that, we're not the parents, we support the parents. That's really important. But I heard of some families down in Devon who, it does seem that some of the Ukrainians want to be on their own that day, so they're not crowded out. And they've had a conversation with some local hotels that are willing to make that possible. And again, you don't want to get it wrong the other way, so it looks like we're pushing people out because we want to include. But if in conversation our Ukrainian guest says, what, we think this is going to be a bit overwhelming, finding an alternative could be a generous thing, really, couldn't it?
It's a great idea. It's a great idea. And just understanding that with trauma, one of the hardest things with trauma is, one, you're not in control. You're not in control of what's happened to you, and you're not in control of what's happening in your body. And so anything that you can do to give that sense of, maybe you can't control everything, but they can do some things. And that might be, for some of them, that might be the best option, is to not be there. I love that the dates are different, and I love that traditions are different, because in conversation, as you guys have modeled, it sounds like a lot of fun. You have 2 Christmases or 3 Christmases, and that feels like after all this time, that might just be a really nice thing. So I love that that's a possibility in this. But if I'm being specific about triggers, things for you to watch out for, just in general, what triggers trauma are things like lights, which we have on our homes sometimes and inside our homes. Here in the US, lots outside. Noises, and that could be music. That could be, you have a cute little something that says ho, 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 or
a Christmas cracker exploding unexpectedly.
All of those things. Yeah. So really, those, again, prep those things, but those are all things about really understanding that tastes can be a trigger. Smells can be a trigger. So some of these familiar things can trigger people. Overstimulation can be a trigger, and so even talking through that, this is what's going to happen on Christmas Day. This is what's going to happen on Boxing Day. Maybe there's a plan in there to, maybe you want to take a walk at this time, or, just to give the kids a chance to move out whatever responses they're having. And depending on the age of the kid, they're going to have a different ability to verbalize what's happening for them. They may be able to say, this is hard, or I'm sad, or I miss this. Or they may just act it out. They may, they may feel it. So you might hear, I have a stomach ache, or, my head hurts, or I'm tired, or something like that, where they're trying to describe what they're feeling in their body the best that they can. And so just to be really alert for those things.
Yeah.
And I have a chart that if we can get the
Yeah,
chart.
let's see it.
I don't want to get too technical with you guys, but you can go to my website and get a copy of this and download it if that's helpful to you. Basically what this is, it's a chart by a woman named Babette Rothschild, who is a trauma specialist. It's in her book called The Body Remembers Too. And it just kind of talks about all the things that are going on in your body physiologically as you're triggered with trauma. So once you start getting into what you see as the blue, the active alert, and then the orange, the flight or fight has now been triggered. There are signs in your body that are going to show that you are starting to have this trauma response. And it might be helpful just to familiarize yourself with those orange and those red columns, because when that happens, you're going to need to tend to, whether it's the child or the adult, you're going to need to tend to that, because they're going into an anxiety response. And so you're going to be looking for, like, are they looking sweaty? Are they saying they're very cold? Does it feel like they're not connecting with the people around them? You're asking them questions and they don't get it, or they're not participating, or something of that nature. And those are signs for you that something's happening for them. So again, I would just reiterate, you want to start by avoiding whatever trigger you can, working with the parents to set the day up for the most possible success that it can be, and then being aware and noticing what's going on, any signs of this that they're having, and then respond to that.
Yeah.
And we can take the chart off, and please feel free to.
Yeah, let me throw a question at you. I mean,
Yeah.
I can imagine that some people might be surprised we're still talking about trauma. Some people might think, it's been 6 months. Surely it's all over by now. I've come across the idea that actually, if children are beginning to feel more settled, that's sometimes when the trauma actually comes up, because they've been in kind of shield mode, if you like, just holding it together. But then as they begin to relax, that's when some of these trauma responses come up. So is that right? We shouldn't be unexpected to think.
Yeah, I would say it's more like this. So on the chart, that first part is the yellow part, and that's what you're talking about when someone is just coming out of this response, this kind of lethargy, almost shock, where your body, what's been going on hormonally to your response to what's happened, your body's spent. And so it maybe appears like calm. It could look like depression, those kinds of things. And now some normalcy is coming back.
Yeah.
And they're getting through the day, which is great. They feel safe. They feel stable. Those are the first two things we're going to want to do when we're working with someone that's experienced trauma. But the triggers is what we're talking about, right? So just because they've done well and they're maybe triggered by a holiday or triggered by noise or smells or light, doesn't mean they're not recovering.
Yeah.
It's not a step back. It's just this came up. My body is trying to protect me, and I'm going into a response that there's danger. And it's about allowing the body to then settle down again and get back into the present. This is what's happening. And so it can feel confusing. Like, I thought they were better. I would say for someone who's experienced trauma, it doesn't ever really go away. You're going to be more sensitive to things than had you not been. And anyone who's been in a car accident, anything of that nature, grew up in the UK in the 1970s or in Northern Ireland, these things don't ever go away. It's just that we learn to understand them. We place them in the past. If we feel triggered, we know how to then regulate so that we get back. We don't get stuck in it as much, but it's always
Yeah.
there to some extent.
Thanks, Wendy. So helpful. I love picking your brains on this. I'm really interested as a foster parent, as a host, to think what is it I need to do to change in order to help my guests have the most wonderful Christmas experience. You know, I'm from here, right? They're on my patch, if you like, and in terms of a power imbalance, I'm the secure one. So whatever I can do to help make their lives better, that's
Yeah.
my kind of approach.
Yeah.
Just one more question, then we'll pick up some others in the panel time. We've mentioned this will be the first Christmas that some of the families are going to be separated. You know, dad's still in Ukraine,
Right.
grandparents might be without electricity and water, and you know, here we are kind of having a happy time. I can imagine there'll be a range of emotions that people are going through. What is it that we need to do as hosts to kind of make this as positive an experience as possible?
Yeah, so that's where it's really about communication and asking your guests, how do they feel about Christmas this year? Do they want to celebrate Christmas? Do they not want to celebrate Christmas?
Mm.
That's a really important question, because based on the kind of things you're saying, they may not want to. If they say that they do, you can, encourage things, and I'll leave a lot of this up to Allie, but maybe it's something that you do, that you make for dad or grandparents or things like that, that allows them to be in the holiday with you in a happy way instead of a sad way. And I'll leave the creative for Allie, but something of that nature. But because of that, people may not want to participate. And all I can say, for all of you that have opened your home so warmly, don't take it personally.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't want your hospitality. It's good for them to be able to know what they need and what they don't need, and
Yeah,
they
that's
respect
really
that.
helpful. I try to empathize as best I can. You know, if it was me and I was on the front line and my family was somewhere else, how would I want my family to be treated? And would gearing themselves up actually make life harder? So that's such a helpful perspective, Wendy. Thank you. We're going to hear from you again in a minute when we have a little panel discussion. And you've been mentioning Ali, who's coming up soon.
Yeah.
He's an arts psychotherapist. So we're going to talk about how creativity might help with some of the children, particularly that are going through this trauma. But thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again in a few moments, if that's okay.
Great. Thanks, good.
Brilliant. I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. If you've been on one of these before, you'd have met her before. Her name is Kat, and Kat is the inspirational CEO of a fantastic organization called Baby Basics. And Baby Basics have been working for many years, but I've come to know them in the last 18 months as we've worked together on helping Afghans resettle to the UK and supporting hotels, and now working with Ukrainians. But Kat, you deal with just a lovely response to very vulnerable families. Help us understand what you're hearing across the UK right now and how we might be able to support what you're doing. Oh, you're unmuted.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, so thank you, Chris. So at Baby Basics, we support vulnerable families right across every area of society who need essential baby and toddler support. So our support to Afghan families resettling in the UK and now Ukrainian families resettling in the UK has kind of been no different in what we've provided. But what we're seeing in the referrals that come through from Ukrainian families is the real practical things that they want, so that their host families need to be able to supply for their guests. So whether that be pushchairs or cots or clothing or bed guards or high chairs or toys, or basic toiletries, that's what's being requested most of from us, and especially things like car seats, because obviously host families may have cars that they're either able to use to take out their Ukrainian guests, or the Ukrainian guests want to be able to get a driving license and drive a car and purchase a car themselves, and car seats are an expensive luxury for many. So I think what we're seeing is it's those basic essentials. And I think from talking to a lot of the Ukrainian families that we've supported, their comments back to us that it's not just about the practical stuff. It's about showing that somebody else outside of their host family really cares and is bothered that their children are safe and well. But also that as parents, they want to be able to provide for their families. They're thinking, as any parent is thinking, kind of the next step ahead. My baby's 3 months old now. In a matter of weeks, my baby's going to need a cot. Where am I going to get a cot from? I can't ask my host for that. Do they understand? Have they had children? How do I afford 120 quid for a cot, a mattress and bedding? So it's helping them to take ownership of their parenting in a culture that they don't understand, in a place where they don't know how to access support in the same ways. And I think for host families, it's about lifting some of the pressure, especially for people who've got families arriving recently from Ukraine. They're still trying to sort out visas and benefits and schools and everything else. The response that we've had from hosts is that it's been great just to know that the children, the under 5-year-olds, are covered. Their essentials are covered by us. So it's been amazing to be able to provide this service for Ukrainian families. We are presently had to pause our support while we seek more funding and more support to be able to continue it in the future. And we really hope that the start of next year, towards the middle to end of January, we will be able to launch some sort of support again for Ukrainian families, but it is all dependent on funding. But we're really grateful to everyone who supported us so far. We still have an active Amazon wish list, which I think a link is going to come into the chat. So if anybody does feel like they want to contribute and support another family arriving in the UK, or a family who's outgrown the things that they've got already, they've been here for 6 months, they need a cot now, or they need a bigger pushchair, then please do let us know. Or in fact, if their Ukrainian family has not been in the UK not that long and they've discovered they are pregnant, that's a real tricky one for people. When they're not expecting that, especially as hosts, but especially for those families, to help us supply everything that's needed for a newborn. So yeah, do check that link if you can. And I think, as Wendy said, as everybody said, Christmas is a really tricky time for a lot of people, not just Ukrainians. And I think it's also about thinking about yourself as a host and what's also going to trigger you potentially. And how do you feel about sharing your Christmas with somebody that you don't know that well yet, or you're not sure and you're nervous about it. But as Wendy has said, and others are going to say on this, communication is key. And talking to everybody about what their needs are. So we never, at Baby Basics, we're really, really passionate, one, about valuing every individual and every family that support, but also not enforcing or pushing anything onto anybody that they haven't requested. So it's about having those clear communications.
Thank you, Kat. And I know that you've been supporting, families, British families who are facing a real challenge with the kind of winter coming, the fuel crisis, the cost of living crisis, and just friends, go and visit Baby Basics. They're doing brilliant work. We're here supporting Ukrainians, but obviously, in my eyes, every single human being has intrinsic value, dignity, and worth, whether they're from Ukraine, Afghanistan, Eritrea, Syria, or Britain. And there's lots of families in need. So if there's ways that you can support what Kat's doing, please do. Thank you, Kat. Stick around. You've got some lovely messages already from people who have received from Baby Basics. Cynthia says, so grateful to Baby Basics for the car seat and loads of other stuff they sent. It'll be great if they could get their support packages open again in the new year. So think about whether that's something you'd like to get behind. Now, a new friend I've made in the last few weeks is Ali. And Ali is an arts psychotherapist. And I first came across Ali when she was performing at Glastonbury, the music festival. And, I was there. I was watching Elbow do a performance of, what was the song? Throw Those Curtains Wide. On a day like this, that was what it was, wasn't it? Beautiful, beautiful song. And suddenly walks in, it looked like a 10-foot puppet of a child called Little Amal. And then there's a supporting choir, of which you are a member of, the Citizens of the World Choir. So you have many, many hats, Ali. It's lovely that you could join us. Tell us how maybe some creativity, some crafts, might help hosts and children and guests just get through some of these difficult things we've been talking about?
Oh, I feel so privileged to be able to share some ideas, and some of the ideas you may already know of, but hopefully I can just add to the list. But yeah, I come here with quite a few different hats on. So I'm an art psychotherapist. I'm used to working with clients who have some emotional distress, and the arts is a beautiful way of working with people. It takes the pressure off words, and it helps people to explore things that they can't, that isn't so logical perhaps, or it doesn't work in such a cognitive way. But of course it does take the pressure off words, and I'm thinking about families who, you know, where there is a language barrier. So it's
Ali, we've lost you for a second, and it was funny, you were just talking about a language barrier. I think we've got a Wi-Fi barrier right now. Are you back again? Oh, we've lost Ali for a minute. I'll tell you what, and I was really looking forward to hearing Ali. If we don't get about, yeah, you're back. Here we go.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, so it can be great for building connection and bringing some fun as well at this time of year. And if, I'm also a mum to 2 boys, and I'm also a host to a Ukrainian guest as well, which is a real privilege for me. So yeah, I've come with some ideas, I suppose, and this isn't about enforcing any ideas or, you know, telling people that they have to engage with the arts, but it is a nice way just even to have some arts around the house and to offer it up is useful. And I'm thinking during the holidays that sometimes everyone can be on top of everyone in the house. The school holidays, you know, children are usually at school, aren't they, which gives a little bit more space to adults. And there can be times where you just think, gosh, everyone's on top of each other. So the first thing I would suggest is literally going out and enjoying nature, and perhaps going on a scavenger hunt. Perhaps there could be a sheet of paper with a few different things to look out for, some pine cones and some holly and some Christmas lights and maybe some snowmen. And especially for younger children, that could be a competition about, you know, who can see what and what can we tick off. But also bringing some of these things back into the home, creating a nature table. I'm just thinking about pine cones as well that can be kind of sprayed silver, or even made into Christmas decorations with a bit of felt. So this is, I thought this could be a Blue Peter moment. This just requires a pine cone and a bit of felt and a little, can you see, a little kind of wooden,
yeah, beautiful
head, and a bit of ribbon. And that can be, you know, just from the walk you've been on, and a little bit of felt and ribbon, that could be added to the Christmas tree. And it can make people feel that they are creating something beautiful in the home. But I'm also thinking about scavenger hunts in the house if the weather's bad, that maybe the children have to go and find something beginning with maybe the first letter of their name. And for everything that they bring back, they're given a little sweetie or something. So that can be a really good thing to do. And then, of course, I'm sure you're all familiar with snowflake making. And of course, you can use sheets of A4 or just use muffin cases and fold them, you know, multiple times, and then cut into them. And of course, the great thing about snowflakes is that each one is individual, kind of celebrating all of our uniqueness, but to be made into something like this.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
And they can be put on glass, and especially when it's dark, I mean, that can be quite difficult. I don't know if anyone suffers from seasonal affective disorder. I think I have a little bit of that. But just to look out into kind of the bleak landscape, to have something on the window like this is quite beautiful. So that's something I would recommend for sure. And I'm just thinking about teenagers as well, who may be not so interested in doing this. Maybe they will be, it depends. But I'm also thinking that sometimes it's quite nice to have a few magazines lying around and for them to make a collage. Some people really are quite serious about this and have vision boards that they make, but it could be that it could be a collaborative exercise or something that they do individually, and just trying to think about collecting things that inspire them, maybe quotes from magazines that they like the look of, or colours, or anything that they find cool, and just an opportunity for them to cut that out and make it into a collage. That might be a good idea. What else? There's something that my family does on Christmas Day, which is like a head, I don't know what it's called, like a head, body, legs and shoes exercise. And again, it doesn't require any language at all, other than everyone has a sheet of paper, everyone draws a head, and then they fold it over, just revealing the neck, and it's passed to the next person, and the next person has to draw a body. Everyone has to draw a body on the sheet that they've been passed. That gets folded over, and then only the waist is showing. Then people have to draw the legs, and then that's folded over, and then someone else has to draw the feet. And then, of course, have a bit of fun opening it up and seeing what you've created. And of course, it doesn't have to be a body. It could just be do something for a minute, then it gets passed on, and the next person has to carry on drawing something. And it can be quite hilarious what ends up coming back to you. But equally, I'm just thinking about even with younger children and what you could put on the table. I think I found this from IKEA. There was a roll, but you could make this into a tablecloth, and it could just be a kind of colouring in exercise on the table. All you need is a few felt tips. So that's quite a nice activity to keep, not necessarily just young children, actually, but everyone entertained in the spare moments.
I can see that, Ali. You're getting some nice comments. People are saying they're loving the Blue Peter moment. I think that there's a serious side to this as well, isn't there? That this is about inclusion, allowing a family to come together. I can think of, grandparents and, new Ukrainian children. This is something that they can do together. I think that's really powerful. And I love the way you thought about crossing those language barriers. Because Christmas dinner in our house normally takes 2 hours. And, if you don't speak the language and you're going to be bored, that could be quite a complicated time. So I love these little things we could be doing around the Christmas table. Thank you.
And importantly, it doesn't require any particular artistic skill. That's really important, because some people can get hooked up on whether they're good or bad at art. And this is just about doing something simple and creating some really beautiful results. But equally, Krish, I'm thinking beyond the arts, there are some really nice games, even card games or bingo, that doesn't require much language. And of course, cooking as well. I'm just thinking about, these, I just found this in my cupboard, which I haven't used for so long, to make a gingerbread man, and decorating them. They can all be different using different Smarties. And of course, I think you can possibly make it into a reindeer with 2 eyes and imagine that they're antlers. You know what I mean? There's so many different things to do.
Amazing. Thank you, Ali. And thanks for thinking of things that aren't going to cost the earth either. They're really achievable financially. So really, really well done. Thank you. Now, we've had lots of questions come in throughout the evening. So I'm going to invite all my guests who are available. I don't know if Wendy might need to cook a couple of turkeys, because she's currently celebrating Thanksgiving. There she is. I've already
just might hear people entering the house.
I can hear
some noise downstairs.
My commiserations that America are going to be leaving the World Cup early, thanks to England and Wales going through. But thanks for joining us. I hope this is some consolation to you for that. I'm teasing you.
Yes, I know.
We've had a few questions come through about what do we do about presents without trying to cause any extra kind of burden on Ukrainians. People might be shocked in Britain the kind of level of gift giving there is, particularly to teenagers. They might expect a certain standard of present, and then how do we stop our Ukrainian friends feeling guilty that they don't have the means to be able to participate? Has anyone got any wisdom about how we do this sensitively? Wendy has, and then Kat. Yeah.
I think Kat and I are going to say the same thing. I can tell. I would say open your gifts separately. Have family time for gift giving, and then have time together, if that's what you agree on, to exchange gifts with one another. But I would just separate it. Your children should not have to give up their tradition.
Right.
And your time with your family is very important as well. That's
good. That's a pragmatic solution. Kat, do you want to add a different one? And when we bring
Tanya in? That would definitely be one of my solutions. I think the other one would be having a conversation. If your children, as your British children, are of an age to understand, to again have that conversation with them about what do they suggest that they do to make things welcome. And I certainly, one of the things that we see at Baby Basics when we put out our Christmas present appeal, the number of children that come to our door because they don't want to see another child go without a present. So they have said to their parents, I want to sacrifice one of my gifts so that another child can have it. And I think that's a really lovely way of encouraging our children to be empathetic to the needs of other children. And the fact that they've already opened their homes to these families shows that they have a level of empathy as well. So it might be worth having that conversation about what do we suggest, how do we do Christmas to engage everybody in it without anyone feeling overwhelmed or disappointed or stretched.
That's really good. Tanya, give us your perspective. Have you experienced Christmas in the UK before?
No, to tell the truth, no. I haven't experienced Christmas here. And with us, people give, we call it like symbolic presents, like not real, expensive things. Something, nice and lovely and cozy, something funny sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's more like attention than really presents. Just show that you care. That's it.
I'm loving the way Ukrainians do it. In Britain, it's not unusual in some families for children to be expecting a similar level of present they get for their birthday, and that could be like a PlayStation or a mobile phone, or so that they're often quite expensive physical items rather than the symbolic that you're talking about. One of the things we've been trying to do over the last few years with our children is get them involved in making things. So making fudge or chocolate biscuits or cards, and that's what they give to their wider family. And there's no reason why we couldn't include our Ukrainian guests in that kind of activity day, a week before Christmas, and then they're wrapping stuff up and no one's out of pocket then, and everyone's got something to give. So that might be another way we could try that.
Yeah, and just by the way, I wanted to say what Ali was talking. These ginger biscuits in different shapes are very popular with us, and also I forgot how you call it. This kind of white snow, like a star.
Snowflake.
Yeah.
Snowflake.
Yeah, that's very popular. Like like most of us know how to do that, and we are doing it too. So it would be the great way to spend time together too.
Brilliant. There's been a few questions about St. Nicholas Day on the 19th of December, and how hosts can do a good job with that. So one is, do you put sweets under the pillow on the 18th so they wake up with the 19th, or do you put it on the 19th so they wake up on the 20th?
No, well, on the 18th, and they wake up on the 19th. Yes.
Okay, and I guess again we want to do this with parents, because the parents might feel that's their job, and if we do it, then we're kind of robbing them of something important. But let's have a conversation about that.
Also it's possible, sometimes to put it into a sock or something like that. It's also possible.
Excellent. Another question was, someone wants to hold a party on the 19th for Ukrainian children. Are there any games that Ukrainian kids would be expecting to play at a party like that?
Well, actually, what we are usually doing, we are singing this song that you mentioned, that like Shedrik, Shedrik, and children are singing it all the time. And then what we also do, we put different wishes, sometimes really funny, like may you, I don't know, win a lottery. Something like that. Or may you, if a lady is not married, for example, and she wants, may you find a prince. And then they put it into a jar, and then everybody takes it. So it's a lot of fun.
Oh,
You
that
can
sounds
do
like
it.
fun.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. There was a question, and anyone can have a go. I might have a go first, and you add to it, friends. One of our friends here is hosting a Muslim family, and is asking how to do Christmas if you have a Muslim family staying with you. We've experienced that a little bit as foster parents when we've looked after Muslim children, and my approach is twofold. I call it the principle of reciprocity and the principle of authenticity. So reciprocity means if my children were being looked after by a Muslim family, how would I want my children's faith to be honored? I would say if they wanted to go to the church, we should encourage the host, if they were Muslim, should let them go to church. If they want to read the Bible, they should read the Bible. And they shouldn't be imposed on by somebody else. I want their freedom of religion to be protected. But equally, this is my home, and I'm not just a Christian on Sundays. It's the whole of my life. I can't switch it off. So I'm Christian, but I offer it to the world as an invitation rather than an imposition. So if we were to pray before a meal, for example, with grace, I say, hey, this is what we do. If you want to join in, that's up to you. But if you don't, that's no problem either. So I wonder if either those two principles might be of help. If you're a Christian family and you're hosting Muslim friends, I think just have the conversation, explain what you normally do, invite people to be part of that if they want to. If they don't want to, that's totally okay too. And you might want to say, well, what do you do at this time of the year? How can I facilitate you to do that? But I think there's a way we can do it graciously without any sense of imposition. I think invitation's fine. Don't exclude people because they're another faith. Invite them. But does anyone else have a different perspective or angle on that?
I'd agree. I think it goes back to autonomy. It's their choice, and you're welcoming them to participate, and it's perfectly fine not to.
Yeah, that's great. Very good. Excellent. I'm going to give you all a chance to say a last comment, something that you really wanted to say that you haven't had a chance to say before we go. Tanya, just one last question for you from David. It's what typically would you think is a really good style or type of gift for an adult Ukrainian? Imagine you're hosting an adult Ukrainian for Christmas, whichever day you're going to celebrate Christmas. Can you give us some ideas of what a normal gift for an adult might be at this time?
Literally, it can be, of course, it depends on the budget you have, but
Yeah.
right. But it can be something really small and funny. I don't know, like funny socks, right? Christmas socks, or maybe funny jumper. I mean, or just if it's a lady, most of Ukrainians like sweets. So it can be just a bar of chocolate.
That sounds good. I like
Yeah.
it. You have me at chocolate. I'm in. Great. Well, friends, thank you so much for joining us. Let me go around the room. Let me start with Ali, and then Kat, and then Wendy and Tanya. Just anything you think we should think about, or you want to remind our guests about, or our hosts about at this time. Ali, you want to offer any last comment?
I really thought what you said was beautiful about honoring, the customs of the Muslim family in your experience of being a foster parent. And equally, I love the idea of honoring what I find special in my house at Christmas time, but equally honoring that of others. And I just wanted to say about Shedrick, which I sang at Glastonbury Festival.
Where was that again? Sorry, Ali. Was that Glastonbury? Was it?
Well, I was on stage with my choir, Citizens of the World Choir.
I was cheering you on. I didn't even know you then. That's so funny.
Actually, thank you for that quiz question because I got it right. We're currently welcoming Ukrainian members into our choir, which is based in Greenwich, in London, which may be too far a journey for some, but it's such an honour to be able to sing with people from around the world who have fled war and fled their countries for a number of different situations. But at Christmas time, we have such a history of carol singing, and I just love the idea that maybe because I've had to learn Shedrick, which is really difficult, but I love the idea that there's a kind of cultural exchange there, that perhaps we as hosts can learn a song from the Ukrainian culture, and likewise we can teach something else from our culture.
Yes, that's lovely. Callum, who's the invisible man in our production tonight, he's in charge of all the videos coming in and out. He runs production for a really excellent church in Bracknell, and as part of their Christmas celebrations, this is a church of over 1,000 people. They're going to sing Silent Night, half in English and half in Ukrainian. And I'm hearing churches around the country offering that kind of, again, reaching out, bridge building to people to make them feel welcome. So that's lovely. Your choir's doing that too, Ali. Kat, any last words from you?
I think the only last thing from me would be to kind of give yourselves as hosts lots of grace and your guests lots of grace, because Christmas is always a stressful time for a lot of people, and nothing's going to be perfect and everyone's going to make mistakes around it. And I think, as we do have to often do with extended family and other gatherings around Christmas, it's all about just giving and receiving lots of grace, and trying not to make everything super perfect.
Yeah, that's right. It's helpful. A few people were saying, look, I'm feeling exhausted. I wasn't expecting to be hosting at this time. Christmas is a time of kind of recuperation, and I think that's right. You know, give yourself grace. You've been running a marathon. We've said that in previous sessions, and maybe you do need some time out. How to have that conversation graciously with your guests. Again, this situation down in Devon, when that has come up, you know, my children are coming home, and I'm going to struggle with where we're all going to be. Sometimes, again, it's neighbours or friends who've been able to say, you know what, we've got some space. Maybe your Ukrainian friends would like a little bit of time out as well, you know, and that could be another way they get a holiday. So I think we've been saying it all the way through: communication, talking through expectations, being gracious to one another. You know, sadly, as you'll know from the letter we're writing, it's difficult to find accommodation for people to move on to. So you might be in this situation for a bit longer than you expected, and having a little rest stop at Christmas might be a kind of mercy, I guess, that allows you to continue a bit further. So, yeah, thanks, Kat. Let's be gracious to one another. Wendy, anything from you?
Yeah, all really good. I'd ask, can we get the links up for the videos? And
yeah, they're in the chat.
Yeah, so just so you know, there are 2 sets of videos. There's one that is presented by Tanya in Ukrainian. It has Russian subtitles and English subtitles. And they are 7 videos that are just helpful tools for regulating for post-trauma and anxiety. Very general, very basic, not triggering. So we've got a set of 7 in Ukrainian and a set of 7 in English. And so the links are up there for both, and it might be helpful for yourself to understand simple things to keep things calm and help people get back into the moment they're in if they've been triggered.
Yeah, brilliant. Just on the triggering side, someone asked a question about fireworks at New Year. Obviously, we just had Guy Fawkes night, and what we tried to do with our Ukrainian friends is give them as much warning as possible, because that's about triggering. Isn't saying you can remove all of the things that could be challenging. It can sometimes be just letting people know it's going to happen so they can prepare themselves for it. So yeah, I think just talk people through. There could be fireworks at Christmas Day in some places, so helping people know that that's coming, really helpful. Wendy, Tanya, anything from you by way of farewell or last words?
Yeah, you know, I just want to share my feelings a little bit. When I was coming here, and now I was thinking, God, we are coming to a house of people that never knew us, you know, before that. And I was a little bit afraid. I was thinking, God, you know, if they have some parties or, you know, friends coming, wouldn't we feel ourselves a little bit, isolated because they have something and we don't? And it never happened. They were always inviting us and encouraging us. And now what I see that you're trying to, to understand our traditions and our culture, literally, it makes me cry in a good way. It feels so nice and warm, and this whole event is like a Christmas present for me itself.
Oh,
So thank
that's
you
wonderful.
so much. Yeah.
Tanya, we're so grateful for you. I'm excited you're going to come with me to 10 Downing Street to deliver our letter to the Prime Minister next Tuesday with your son. And just very, very grateful for all the work you've been doing to help us as hosts and to help other Ukrainians. It's been wonderful to work with you. So, yeah, we'll see you again before Christmas, and we'll give you a proper present. But thank you. Just a couple of last things from me before we leave. Some comments in the chat about housing. It's true that some local authorities are acting as guarantors for renting. Even then, some of us are still struggling to find landlords that are willing to rent to people on universal credit. So there's a whole housing program that we're trying to develop that will help not just Ukrainians and Afghans, but other local people in need. So often key workers struggle for somewhere to live. Another thing for some of us that's helpful is our faith. I find it's my faith that often gives me the ability to keep going. And we're going to do a little oasis of help and hope for those people that, like, I guess, have an openness to the Christian tradition. So we're doing a little Advent journey every day of December, the first 25 days of December. If you want to sign up for that, you can do that in the chat as well, and we'll email that to you. I think the other thing is, look, the situation in Ukraine, sadly, is not getting any better. This is going to be a tough Christmas in Britain with the cost of living crisis. But can you imagine what it's like in Ukraine? So many parts of Ukraine without electricity, without water, hospitals not functioning, still rocket attacks. So, whatever we can do to help our guests here helps people there. And I'm still praying and hoping we'll be able to receive more Ukrainians here. But it's hard to find new hosts. So this is a difficult time, but everything you do to help our Ukrainian friends here helps there. So keep going, friends. It's amazing what you've been doing. And it's been a pleasure to spend some time with you. I hope you feel you've had your mind stretched about how Ukrainians do things differently. I hope you're going to have at least 3 Christmas celebrations for you and your family. You're going to make some lovely crafts, and you're going to be thinking about how we stop triggering people accidentally. And maybe you can think about how you might want to support other vulnerable families through Kat's work. It's been a pleasure to get to know you this year. I'm sure you'll be hearing from us again soon. But thank you, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.
Thank you.